Have you ever felt completely overlooked simply because you're quiet? Society tells us that if we want to succeed, we need to be loud, bold, and outgoing. But what if I told you the quietest person in the room is actually the most powerful? On a chilly December evening in 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks sat quietly on a crowded bus, lost in thought. She was gentle, reserved, and soft-spoken, far from the image of a revolutionary. When confronted, her response wasn't loud or defiant. It was a simple, firm whisper, "No." That one quiet word ignited a movement, transforming a nation. Yet Parks herself later admitted she didn't set out to change history. She simply trusted her quiet strength. Here's a startling fact. Introverts represent nearly half of the world's population, yet nearly 90% of workplaces remain specifically designed to reward extroverts, those who speak up loudly, dominate meetings, and comfortably navigate constant social interaction. Why is it then that despite being so numerous, introverts remain undervalued, misunderstood, and overlooked? Carl Jung, one of history's greatest psychologists, saw clearly what society missed. He didn't just identify introversion, he celebrated it. Jung understood something profoundly revolutionary. The quiet mind isn't weaker, it is often stronger, deeper, and wiser. But what exactly did Jung see within introversion that most still overlook today? And how can understanding this hidden strength transform your life? You're about to discover a hidden truth that's been quietly waiting beneath the noise, one that could forever change how you see yourself, your silence, and your power. Carl Jung's greatest gift wasn't merely naming introversion, it was uncovering why it matters so deeply. Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." But what exactly did he mean by awakening? And why is looking inward so terrifying and yet so necessary? Jung's life itself holds part of the answer. Despite being one of the greatest psychological minds of all time, Jung was profoundly introverted. He sought solitude so deeply that he built a stone tower on the shores of Lake Zurich, deliberately removing himself from society's constant noise. Yet Jung wasn't escaping from the world, he was confronting it, facing himself directly, away from distractions. It was here, in these quiet moments, that Jung experienced astonishing insights into human nature, insights still transforming lives today. Society, however, continues to tell us the opposite, that we find success and happiness only outside of ourselves, in constant activity, validation from others, and outward accomplishments. This conflict creates a powerful inner struggle. Deep down, you sense Jung might be right, that true fulfillment and self-awareness come from within, yet you hesitate. Turning inward can be intimidating. Silence is uncomfortable. After all, what will you discover in those quiet moments when there's nowhere left to hide? But here's what Jung believed would happen if you were courageous enough to look inward. You'd discover your most authentic self, the person beneath society's expectations and your own insecurities. You'd confront your hidden fears, doubts, and dreams, and in doing so, awaken to strengths you never knew you possessed. Think about this carefully. What if in avoiding silence, you've also been avoiding your true power? What if embracing introversion could finally awaken you to the life you've always wanted but were afraid to claim? The answers Jung uncovered are more powerful than you imagine, and they are waiting patiently within your silence. Have you ever wondered why being alone feels so uncomfortable, yet strangely necessary? Jung believed solitude wasn't merely helpful, it was essential. He called it the highest and most decisive experience of all. But how can something so valuable also feel so frightening? Let me tell you a story about Siddhartha, a young man from Hermann Hesse's famous novel. Siddhartha left behind everything, wealth, family, even his closest friend, in pursuit of meaning. He traveled through cities and forests, always seeking, always restless, until one day he found himself alone beside a quiet river. There, in silence, something extraordinary happened. Siddhartha finally listened, not to the noise of the world, but to himself. And in that quiet moment, clarity appeared. Solitude transformed confusion into profound understanding, turning restlessness into peace. Siddhartha's alchemical solitude wasn't isolation, it was liberation. But this isn't only fiction, it's reflected in reality too. Viktor Frankl, a quiet, introspective psychologist imprisoned in the horrors of Auschwitz, discovered something astonishing amidst unbearable isolation. Stripped of everything external, Frankl faced profound solitude, but rather than breaking him, it revealed an unshakable strength, the freedom to choose meaning even in suffering. From this solitary revelation, Frankl created logotherapy, a psychology of purpose that inspired millions. Solitude wasn't his prison, it was his quiet forge of transformation. Yet today, we still fear solitude. Society convinces us we must always stay connected, constantly distracted, endlessly busy. Why? Perhaps because solitude forces us to confront the truths we avoid, our fears, doubts, and deepest vulnerabilities. Jung knew solitude is challenging. He called the path to becoming your authentic self profoundly lonely. Real solitude, he explained, is not the absence of others. It's the silence when you can't communicate what matters most deeply to you. It feels lonely precisely because it is so honest. But here's the crucial revelation Jung and these stories teach us. Solitude is uncomfortable precisely because it is transformative. Just as alchemists patiently transformed base metals into gold, solitude patiently transforms confusion into clarity, anxiety into courage, and loneliness into authentic self-awareness. I'll never forget the week I spent entirely alone, disconnected from everything. At first, the silence was overwhelming. I worried that solitude would consume me, but something unexpected happened. In that quiet space, I met myself clearly for the first time. Solitude wasn't emptiness, it was fullness. It revealed truths I'd overlooked in constant noise. It changed me profoundly, making me stronger, clearer, and braver. And that's exactly the question solitude asks you now. Are you brave enough to enter this silent forge? What will you discover about yourself when there's nowhere left to hide? The answer might be difficult, even uncomfortable, but I promise you the quiet transformation you'll experience is worth every moment spent in silence. Chapter 4. Quiet Heroes and the Hidden Force of Introversion. Have you ever wondered why society overlooks introverts despite the incredible power they quietly hold? History teaches us that heroes are loud, assertive, charismatic, leaders who speak boldly and command attention, but what if we've had it wrong all along? What if our greatest heroes have actually been those whose voices we barely hear? Albert Einstein, perhaps the most celebrated scientist in history, wasn't outspoken or socially dominant. He wasn't even particularly charismatic. Instead, Einstein quietly sat alone at his modest desk, lost in thought. Imagine him softly scribbling equations, unaware he was rewriting our understanding of the universe. Einstein himself openly credited his profound discoveries to solitude, declaring that the monotony and quiet of his isolated life ignited his creativity. While louder contemporaries dominated lectures and public forums, Einstein quietly reshaped reality itself. How is it that the quietest thinker left the loudest legacy? Rosa Parks, another quiet figure, didn't shout for justice. She didn't deliver fiery speeches or lead energetic protests. Rosa was reserved, soft-spoken, and deeply reflective. Her revolutionary act wasn't planned, it was simply her quiet determination, refusing to yield her seat. Yet her gentle whisper, "No," spoke louder than any protest could. Parks herself later reflected that she didn't feel brave or extraordinary, only certain in the quiet strength of her conviction. Because she spoke softly, the world had no choice but to lean closer and listen. Parks teaches us that strength doesn't have to roar to be powerful. Sometimes it simply whispers truthfully, but quiet heroism isn't merely historical. It shapes our lives daily. Consider Steve Wozniak quietly designing the first Apple computers, while Steve Jobs, the charismatic face of Apple, drew public attention. Wozniak's quiet focus created the revolution we now carry in our pockets. Or J.K. Rowling writing alone in quiet cafes, unnoticed by the bustling world outside. Her gentle solitude birthed stories that captivated millions worldwide. Quiet minds, quietly changing our world. Modern studies reveal a surprising truth that confirms the power of these quiet heroes. Introverted leaders frequently achieve better results precisely because they listen deeply, empower teams effectively, and allow innovation to flourish, yet they remain undervalued, overlooked simply because society mistakes loudness for competence. Imagine a common workplace scenario: a loud, extroverted manager confidently leading a chaotic meeting, overshadowing quieter colleagues. Meanwhile, silently in the corner, the quietest employee solves a critical problem unnoticed by others. Only later, when quiet clarity emerges, do colleagues finally realize their greatest asset had been silently working all along. Why do we continually miss this quiet power? quiet heroes remind us vividly, true strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it quietly illuminates the path forward, guiding us silently yet powerfully. Like lighthouses standing calmly amid storms, these introverted figures quietly guide us, unnoticed but indispensable. Yet despite this quiet strength, we still overlook introverts, ignoring their hidden potential. But why does society continue misunderstanding introverts, mistaking quietness for weakness? The answer isn't just social, it's biological. It lies within the very wiring of an introvert's mind. To finally unlock the truth, we need to look closely inside the introverted brain itself. Because once you understand this biological difference, you'll never underestimate introverts again. Chapter 5: The Science of Silence. How introverts are wired differently. Have you ever felt completely drained after a day filled with non-stop conversation, noise, and activity, even if others around you seemed energized by it? Here's something fascinating you might not know. Introversion isn't just a personality trait, it's rooted deeply in biology. The very way an introvert's brain functions is fundamentally different from that of an extrovert. Imagine your brain as a battery. Extroverts recharge rapidly through intense bursts of stimulation, conversation, adventure, noise. Their minds are energized by dopamine, a neurotransmitter triggered by exciting experiences. Introverts, however, have a dramatically different wiring. Their brains are highly sensitive to dopamine, meaning too much stimulation quickly overwhelms and exhausts them. It's not a preference, it's neurological reality. Instead, introverts thrive on a quieter, gentler chemical called acetylcholine, released during deep reflection, quiet contemplation, and meaningful conversations. When an introvert is lost in thought, enjoying a solitary walk, reading a book, or quietly focusing on a task, their brain releases acetylcholine, providing a subtle but powerful sense of calm, clarity, and satisfaction. Recent brain imaging studies deepen this revelation. Scientists have discovered introverts consistently show greater activity in brain areas associated with careful thinking, planning, and introspection. Unlike extroverts who respond swiftly to external stimuli, introverts' brains linger longer, carefully processing, deeply analyzing, forming connections others might easily miss. Simply put, an introvert's mind doesn't just prefer deeper thought, it's neurologically designed for it. Yet despite this extraordinary capacity for insight and creativity, introverts often face misunderstanding. Society frequently pressures introverts to act like extroverts, to speak up more, socialize constantly, and never spend time alone. This expectation creates immense internal tension. Imagine forcing a quiet mind, naturally suited for deep reflection, into a world demanding constant noise and interaction. It's like trying to recharge your phone battery using the wrong charger. The result isn't greater productivity or happiness, it's exhaustion, anxiety, and frustration. Even workplaces misunderstand this basic biological difference. Despite research showing introverted leaders produce higher innovation and productivity precisely because they listen more deeply and empower their teams effectively, our offices remain largely designed for extroverts. Open-plan offices, endless meetings, constant collaboration. These environments drain introverts instead of empowering their strengths. Yet, ironically, studies clearly reveal introverts often outperform their extroverted colleagues in thoughtful decision-making, innovative solutions, and deep creative insights. Here's a surprising truth researchers have discovered. Solitude isn't merely beneficial, it's neurologically essential for introverts. Without quiet downtime, their brains literally cannot function at optimal levels. Introverts don't seek solitude to escape, they seek solitude to recharge. This revelation transforms our understanding of introversion completely. Quiet reflection, deep thought, and moments alone aren't luxuries. They are biological necessities essential to an introvert's health, happiness, and productivity. But despite overwhelming scientific evidence, society still treats introversion as something to overcome rather than something to honor. Why is it that we continue pushing introverts to act against their very nature? And what extraordinary potential could we unlock if we finally respected and even celebrated the quiet strength of introversion? What would happen if introverts everywhere finally embraced their neurological truth, proudly stepping into the quiet strength wired within them? The answer might just change everything. Chapter 6. Embracing the quiet light, unleashing strength in silence. If you've ever felt that your quietness is something to overcome or fix, you've misunderstood your greatest gift. Carl Jung revealed a truth we've forgotten. Silence isn't weakness, it's extraordinary strength. But what does this mean for you right now in a world obsessed with noise? Throughout history, introverts have quietly reshaped the world. Rosa Parks sparked civil rights movements. Einstein quietly redefined our universe. Jung himself quietly revolutionized psychology. Yet society still pushes introverts to speak louder, move faster, and conform to an ideal that doesn't match who they truly are. But imagine if, instead of trying to fit into a loud, chaotic world, introverts fully embraced their silent power. Imagine if you embraced yours. The Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully reminds us we need silence just as much as we need air, just as plants need light. He understood that silence isn't emptiness, it's profound fullness. It's the birthplace of creativity, the forge of wisdom, and the quiet space where inner peace and genuine strength are born. Your moments of solitude, the ones others might label as unproductive or shy, are actually the most valuable moments you possess. They fuel your spirit, recharge your mind, and reveal truths hidden beneath life's noise. I want you to understand this deeply. Your quietness isn't something to change or correct. It's a strength the world desperately needs. Society has overlooked the immense value introverts offer for far too long, mistaking silence for hesitation, thoughtfulness for indecision, and solitude for isolation. But here's what they miss. In silence, you create, reflect, and dream. In quiet, you see clearly what others overlook. Your quiet nature isn't an obstacle, it's your superpower. Consider your silence as a gentle yet powerful lighthouse. It may not shout for attention, but it quietly guides others through storms. In a world drowning in noise, your quiet insight becomes invaluable. Your thoughtful listening, patient reflection, and calm demeanor quietly change lives, often without you even realizing it. Think about the quiet heroes you've heard about today. Rosa Parks didn't shout for justice. Einstein didn't loudly proclaim his genius. They quietly embraced their inner truths, changing everything in the process. Now it's your turn, because what would happen if you fully trusted your quiet voice? What might your silence quietly ignite? Alan Watts once wrote, "If you go off into a far, far forest and get very quiet, you will come to understand that you are connected with everything. Silence doesn't disconnect you. It deeply reconnects you to yourself, to others, and to the entire world. Embracing your quiet strength doesn't isolate you, it empowers you. But here's the most important thing to remember. The quiet strength within you won't announce itself loudly. It will simply whisper truthfully. It's your responsibility, your privilege to trust it, to listen deeply, and then courageously share it. The world desperately needs quiet voices right now, voices of reflection, compassion, clarity, and wisdom. It needs your voice. If you felt understood, inspired, or awakened by this journey, don't remain silent. Your quiet strength deserves to be celebrated. Share this message with someone who needs it. Give it a like so others might discover the strength of their own silence. Subscribe so we can continue uncovering powerful truths together. Because sometimes the quietest voice is exactly the one the world needs most. And right now, the world is waiting to hear yours.